7. Somehow I don't think you've solved my problem.
Solving your problems isn't our line.
We deal in lead, friend.
Hey, it's Golden Buddha here, and today I'm here with Colin Le Sueur, author of Colossus Wake and the new Weird West game, We Deal in Lead. So, first off, Colin, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Thanks for inviting me on to do an interview.
Yeah, no problem. I was really excited when I saw this game. I actually first saw it in the Goodman Games forum where someone posted the link to the itch.io.
Oh, sweet.
And it's just, we've never seen a proper Dark Tower game. We've seen, of course, there's been things inspired by it, you know, because it's such a popular series. But yeah, I've never seen something like the artwork just caught me. And could you tell us a little bit about that, a little bit about the game, or a lot about the game?
Yeah, sure. We Deal in Lead. It started off like you. I always wanted a Dark Tower TTRPG, just because I thought like the world is so rich and like the mythology and the lore behind it, and it's just such a cool book series that I wanted to play in the world. Like I thought it would translate well to a TTRPG, and since there weren't any out there that I could find, I thought I'd write one myself. It started off, it really started with like a journey for the system, like what would power it, because I knew that something like 5e wouldn't work for it. I looked at potentially Savage Worlds or Deadlands, but I'd already used Karn, which is a lightweight D20 system based on Into the Odd and Knave. So I used Karn for Rune Karn, my Norse fantasy Souls-like TTRPG. So I knew the system fairly well, and I thought that it would work really well for a Weird West game as well. So that's where the kernel of it started.
Oh, speaking of which, Into the Odd. You guys, if you guys haven't checked out this game, you definitely need to check it out. It's by Chris McDowell, and it is a wonderful game. And this is part of what some of the rule set that We Deal in Lead uses a little bit out of here. So,
and there's a new Chris McDowell and Johan Noor have just put out a new remastered version of Into the Odd.
Oh yeah, and that looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it's really nice. Like,
yes.
it's high quality. Yeah.
So you said you were a big fan of the Dark Tower series. So what is your favorite Dark Tower book and favorite character from that series?
I think because I started reading the Dark Tower with the Gunslinger probably, I think 80s I might have been a bit too young, so let's say early 90s.
Okay.
And back then it was like, I think Wizard and Glass came out in 97, so I started with the Gunslinger, didn't really get it. Like, I think I bounced off it a little bit. And then I also tried the audiobook of Drawing of the Three before I fully read the Gunslinger, so I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, that's a weird place to dive in at, because it's like,
yeah,
that's like the second book, and
yeah,
he just pops.
And
oh,
like,
by the way, spoiler alert for Dark Tower for anyone who's watching this, because if you haven't read it by now, I'm sorry, but we have to kind of talk a little bit about it because, but continue, Colin.
Yeah. Because it basically starts off with the main character losing a couple of fingers on his hand and like essentially being nearly killed. So it's an odd place to jump in. But so I went back and finally read Gunslinger properly, and then Drawing of the Three, and continued on. I think it was Drawing of the Three that really stuck with me, because that one, they Roland, the main Gunslinger character, So he's in a world that's similar to ours. Could be in the far future, could be in the past, could exist in a weird nexus of time. But it's basically in a world with where chivalry and chivalric knights have been replaced by gunslingers. And so he's one of the last gunslingers in a post-apocalyptic world of magic and horror and sci-fi. So in the drawing of the three, he travels into the real world, like he travels into our world of the 1980s, and that was just amazing. That the scenes with Eddie, like the rescue when he rescues Eddie.
Oh man, I love the scene. Where Eddie like bursts out the bathroom naked and he starts gunning down the guys who killed his brother. Yeah. Oh, that was great.
Yeah. So that.
And what was
one of my favorite.
The black girl in the wheelchair? What was her name again?
Yeah, Detta.
Detta.
So Detta and Odetta.
Yes, the split personality thing. I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
Oh man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's definitely a good pick. I have to say my favorite has got to be Wizard in Glass. Mostly because we get to see a younger Roland, and we get to see like we get to see like a Gilead before it's like completely fallen into chaos, you know.
Yeah.
And like there's civilization there, and there's intrigue, and it felt very. It was very interesting. And also he was like him and his friends were like 14 during that.
Yeah.
So I was just like, wow, y'all just 14 walking around with the big iron on your hip. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a rough world. Okay.
Yeah.
So
it was like I had a funny experience with Wizard and Glass in that, like, when I first read it, I didn't really like it that much because it's like there's a lot of like there's some Wizard of Oz stuff in it. Definitely. Like some like Wizard of Oz analogies, and then the story, like, I'm like, well, it slows down so much. But rereading it, like, as I got older and as I read more of like as I kind of broadened my reading, I think it's one of my favorites as well. It's an amazing story, and like the town of Mehis is so like well realized.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really good.
But going back to We Deal in Lead, so obviously it's super influenced by Dark Tower, artwork, all of that stuff. You mind talking a little bit about who did the artwork for that?
Sure, yeah. So I've got a mix of artists who are working on, or who've done work for me, and whose work that I've used. So the kernel of the idea and like the first images that I used for it were from Diaz Holm. He's a Norwegian painter. He's got a huge following on TikTok, believe it or not. Okay. But his stuff is really cool. Like, he does daily ink drawings, where he'll take like a drop of ink and then he'll kind of dab it around the page and then develop an image from that. Really cool, like mythology and like monsters and really cool stuff. So he doesn't believe in copyright, and he releases all of his art Creative Commons, so you can use for free.
Wow.
Which is amazing. Yeah, and his stuff is super dynamic and evocative. So I'm using a lot of his images in the book, and I've gone and become a patron of his. Like, he's got a Patreon as well, and that's how he supports himself. But
great.
Yeah,
I'll make sure to put a link down to that below and give him some love.
Yeah, awesome.
And for any of you all who are looking for some art, be a great place to look for. So
yeah, he does amazing stuff. For the cover, I wanted something specific and impactful. So I reached out to Goran. Sorry, I'm gonna have to check. He's got a name that's a bit difficult for me to pronounce, so I'm just gonna double check.
Norwegian?
No, he's Eastern European, So it's Gligović. I think is how it's pronounced. But yeah, he does amazing stuff, and the cover that he made for me just knocked it out of the park. And then for the interior art, I reached out to a Brazilian artist named Felipe Faria. His stuff is really cool, like almost comic-like, like really like clean lines and great like black and white art. So he did the main gunslinger commissions for me. So like there's 5 gunslingers, and one of them that he designed himself is based on a Brazilian gunslinger, which is really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then so Perplexing Ruins, I'm a patron of his as well. He does amazing, really evocative black and white art, and like digital art as well. And so because I'm a patron of his, I can use his art in commercial projects.
Okay.
So I've got a lot inside of interior art. And finally, I wanted some really cool full color art. So I reached out to a Malaysian artist named Amita Sevellaraja, and she did 2 commissions for me. One of a ritual and one of a bumbler, like a Billy Bumbler.
Nice.
Yeah. So those turned out really well. And yeah, so it's a mix of commercial, Creative Commons commission, and like Patreon art. So it's a good mix, and I think it really captures like the mood of the Dark Tower.
Yes. And speaking of the mood of the Dark Tower, now Stephen King, when he wrote it, he was like, "Oh, I kind of want to make an American Lord of the Rings." Is kind of the idea he had for it. But because he's a horror writer, he had those moments, and there were some terrifying moments in Dark Tower. But getting back to your game, I want to know, what are some rules that help evoke that horror aspect in the Dark Tower universe? Because there are some horrific things in it, you know, like the demons and the Crimson King and all those other things.
So there's some dotted around, like, because the world is a mix of like magic and fantasy and sci-fi, like old technology. There's some of the monsters that I've got in the book are really evocative of that. Like there's one called a hitchhiker, which is essentially a succubus or an incubus, and it'll attack you and like leech off of you and attach itself to you.
Yeah, I remember that from the first book.
If you don't, yeah. And if you don't cleanse it, then it'll keep draining you until you die, basically. And when you die, you come back as another hitchhiker. Yeah. So a lot of the horror is in the monsters, but also the world, like the thinny in the Dark Tower, like the concept of a thinny.
Yes.
I have as a chaos slip. So basically, it's a tear in the fabric of space-time that bleeds into like something else, some other place that isn't the physical world.
So we might have some 40K crossovers, maybe. You know, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe Slanesh slips
the thing.
through. I don't know.
That's the thing. Like it's built to be like interoperable with other systems and settings. Well, like Karn primarily, like it's I've run some I've run a group through one of my Rune Karn adventures with we deal in lead gunslingers, and it worked really well. But yeah, like the concept is there, so you could potentially have a crossover with any other world or any other setting or genre because of these slip doors and these tears in space. But the chaos slip, it both repels and attracts you if you hear it. So you have to make a save to avoid like temporary hearing loss, but you also have to make a save to avoid the urge to draw closer to it and to kind of if you get too close, so then you'll get torn apart by the things that have pushed their way into this world.
So, sounds pretty horrifying.
Yeah.
anytime you gotta roll a save like that, it's just like, oh, please.
Yeah.
So really, I know because you said you've done Rune Karn. But really, what made you want to use Karn and Into the Odd as kind of like a base for your game?
I think because it works really well for, like, I like a mix of combat and of role-playing and exploration, and Karn works really well to kind of go between those three. It uses a lighter D20 system, so similar to like Dungeons and Dragons system, but it takes a lot of the kind of extra stuff out,
like AC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's one thing that my players had to get used to when I ran Electric Bastion Land, was they were just like, we just roll damage? It's like, yeah. Because HP was never supposed to be meat in the first place. HP is always like supposed to be like your fatigue or your will to fight in a way.
Exactly. Yeah, so in We Deal in Lead, HP exists as grit. So it's basically, it's your drive to continue and like to survive, basically. So when your grit is reduced to 0, that's when you actually start taking damage to strength, and that's your meat points. But yeah, so Karn works as a lightweight combat system, because I like having like semi-crunchy combat. But it's also really good because it uses principles of like of NSR principles. So NSR, OSR, like New School Renaissance or New School Revolution for NSR. Basically, it makes it a bit more of a conversation between the GM and the players, and a bit more saying the GM just describes the situation, what's going on, and then the players react to that and say what they want to do, and it's only like you only roll if there's a risk involved or if there's a chance of something going wrong. Yeah. So if you want to do something, then you can just do it without having to roll. So it's kind of it's a cool approach that I really like, and it makes things move a lot quicker. And the rules are there when you need them, but they also don't get in the way, which I really like.
Yeah. So speaking of rules, okay, I know you said you like your combat to be a bit crunchy. Now, one thing that has always kind of been controversial in D&D and D&D like derivative games has been gun combat. Like even since like Red Steel, it's even been like an issue. So what does We Deal in Lead? Does We Deal in Lead do anything differently with gun combat, or is it just handled as normal combat? Or are there any rules for duels or anything like that, like the standoffs? You know, it's like
yeah, there are.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
There are actually, yeah. So I wanted it to be as close to Karn as possible, with one exception, or with one main difference, is the guns. So like there are in Into the Odd and Electric Bastion Land, there are guns in it, but I want the guns in We Deal in Lead to be different, because it's a gunslinger's gun. So it is like, you know, it's something magical. Like the guns themselves are magical items.
It's like a samurai sword, you know. It shouldn't just be. It's a part of them. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the gun combat is dealt with differently in We Deal in Lead. So unlike melee weapons, where, like you said, you don't roll to hit, you just roll for damage. With guns, you roll on a shoot table, and it's a 2d6 roll. And 2 to 9 is a hit, a varying degree of success. 10 to 11 is a miss, and 12 is a misfire. But that shoot table is also dependent on the strength of your of the fellowship of your gunslinger order.
The
So
content.
if your order, exactly, yeah, exactly right. So if your order is strong, then you roll as normal on the shoot table. But if your order is broken, then you roll with a penalty. So you've got more chance to miss and more chance of your gun misfiring because fate Ka is against you because you've broken the order. But also the for duels, as a gunslinger doesn't kill with their gun, they kill with their heart.
Yeah.
So in a duel, you don't roll on the shoot table, you roll a heart save. So I've changed the will ability score or will to heart.
Okay.
So yeah, two gunslingers facing off, they roll contested heart saves to determine who can shoot first, like who shoots with their heart and who remembers the face of their elder.
Yes.
Which I've changed it to. Yeah.
So no, I really do like that. That's actually a great idea, honestly. And then it also encourages people to like kind of want to role play together and build those relationships in character because it's a
Exactly.
mechanical bonus, So
Yeah.
that's really
So-
awesome.
Yeah, so like if there are certain things that happen, certain events that happen that will test the strength of the Fellowship of the Order.
Mhm.
Like if a gunslinger dies, if someone loses their gun, or if it gets stolen, or if they there's a couple of other like ways that could test like the Fellowship.
Like if someone
Yeah.
starts sleeping around with somebody outside the group. It's like, God, man, I thought we were bros, man. Bros before hoes, dude. What are you doing? Oh, man.
Yeah, what's cool is that so every order could have different have different tenets or different oaths that they follow.
Mhm.
So could be that something that would break one order wouldn't break another order.
Yeah.
So it all like it's all about the order and how they like.
It's handed on a case by
how they
case
choose to-
basis, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha. So, I want to know, Colin, what do
Mhm.
you, not what do you, what was your favorite part of working on this whole project? And what are you looking forward to working on in the future?
So I really like doing layout. So for my first books, you mentioned Colossus Wake earlier.
Yes.
My first 5 ebooks. I did the writing, the art, the layout, all myself.
Nice.
Yeah, so I I basically just threw myself into the deep end and did everything myself.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I was kind of disappointed that was 5e. I was like, this would have been great for my Back Me D&D game. It's
Nice,
5e. Darn it.
I know.
But you gotta make money. I
Well,
understand. That's it's a popular system.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about potentially converting it to like Pathfinder 2 or maybe like back in the day or like earlier on I was thinking Old School Essentials, but yeah, I mean who knows, like it would be cool to convert it to Karn as well.
Definitely.
To try it out with Karn. Yeah, so I think I really like doing layout, and it's something that I'm still learning and something that I'm teaching myself how to do. So that's what I'm doing right now with We Deal in Lead, because I've got all the art. The writing is 95% done. Still just have a few more tables to finish off. But I like laying it out. I like making it look good and making it stand out and kind of stealing ideas where I can to make it look as good as it can. So that's I mean I love the writing side of it too, but I think the layout that's what I'm most interested in now, just to kind of stretch my muscles.
Gotcha. And so this is one thing I noticed in the description. It's like you could have a game master and one or more players, right? Now,
Yeah.
ever since the pandemic, solo play has been becoming like way more popular. and I've been seeing it pop up all over the place around Drive-Thru RPG and itch.io. So do you think there will be any kind of focus on putting out solo play adventures or like any kind of supplements that support that in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I did with Rune-Cairn Warden Saga. So that was like a collected edition, like kind of an enhanced edition. So I did, so Rune-Cairn, I started off with the core rules for it, then I released an adventure, and then I kind of did it backwards, and I did the collected edition that had the third book, and then I released the third book. So the third book was, yeah, exactly. So the third book is advanced rules, and that has solo rules in it. Okay. So that was all included in Rune-Cairn Warden Saga. So it has like an oracle. So Rune-Cairn uses runes to develop or like to determine random like that's your kind of that stands in for your GM or your warden. And I've used that model. And in We Deal in Lead, I'm also including a what I'm calling an excursion generator. So that's solo rules as well, but also you can roll roll up a random campaign essentially, or a random, well, maybe not campaign. I guess if you string them together, but
if you improvise them enough, yeah.
yeah, exactly. You roll to determine what kind of location it is. So I've got, what is it? Town, way station, city, stuff like that. So you can roll up random encounters, like a random kind of adventure, through one of these settings. And there's like every time you move to a new room, you roll to see what kind of encounter it is. It could be a mystery, it could be treasure, it could be conflict, an obstacle, or it could be just something mundane, like just, a pile of clothes in a corner. But it's all
like in my hallway.
It's all used. Yeah.
Open the door. Oh, laundry. No. It's like, what do you do?
But yeah, exactly. But it's all world building. Like it all kind of builds helps build the drifted world, as I'm calling it, in We Deal in Lead. So yeah, absolutely. There will be a solo element in We Deal in Lead, and absolutely, like solo stuff is gaining popularity, as you say, and there's I'm still finding my way with it, like finding what works best, but yeah, it's something that I'm definitely working on and will include.
Awesome. And one more, and this is a personal question. This is from me, okay?
Yeah.
So I want to know if you guys are going to have a completely PDF fillable character sheet. Like, I want everything to be fillable on that. I'm talking about check boxes, name, stats, all of that. Will you have that for We Deal in Lead? And please say yes.
Yeah, I have it already.
Okay, great. Okay. Whew.
Yeah. So it's included in the PDF when you get it on itch, but it's also available on the We Deal in Lead website, so you can download it for free. Yeah, it's form fillable PDF, 2 sides. It also calculates your inventory. So if you click on a slot, and it'll say how many, like you click on an item to say how bulky it is, and it'll tell you how many free slots you've got.
Yes.
So yeah, it's there, it's done already.
That's good. No, because that's one of the biggest things I'll see with like indie games. It's like they'll have a nice looking character sheet, and then you download, and it's like, I can't, because most people we're playing online mostly nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's just it's just something that's like, it needs to be there. So that,
yeah.
But yeah, that's really all the questions I have for you, Colin. And
awesome.
It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
And as for everybody else, please check out the link down below if you want to check out his game. And also, please like and subscribe for more content. All of that stuff. Hit the like button. You know, YouTube stuff. Whatever. You know what I'm gonna say. You know what. You know why I'm here. Anyways, this is Golden Buddha telling you to stay enlightened and stay safe.